This morning we're talking with Dale Orlando. Dale is a founding member of McLeish Orlando. Firm McLeish Orlando is one of the three of the top-ranked personal injury firms that make up the Personal Injury Alliance. The alliance formed to ensure innocent injury victims and their families have the tools and knowledge necessary to hire the best legal representatives. Today our topic of discussion is cycling and cycling safety, and despite the ongoing education with the importance of helmet use and need for safe coexistence between cyclists and drivers, cycling continues to result in significant injuries to cyclists each year. Dale, I guess how significant is the risk of cycling-related accidents?
It is very significant, Kent. Roughly 26,000 people in Ontario wind up in the emergency room each year as a result of a cycling accident. And that's really just an estimate because we know the real number is much higher. Many of these cycle-related accidents go unreported.
How serious an impact do these accidents have on the victim and their families?
Well, it can be very serious, and in some cases it can really be life-changing. The lawyers of each of the three PIA member firms, Oatley, Vigman, Thompson Rogers, and my firm, we have a lot of experience dealing with victims of cycling accidents and their families, and we can tell you firsthand about the devastating impact that these accidents have on victims and their loved ones. Because of the nature of the accident, it's rare for the injuries to be minor. When you have, obviously, somebody on a bicycle and they are involved in a collision with the car generally gets the better of that exchange. So when people do have these devastating and life-changing injuries, the rehabilitation process is very long, very painful, and very costly.
And we hear time and time again that cyclists should be wearing helmets. How big a difference do helmets really make?
Look, no helmet is going to prevent injuries 100% of the time. But we do know that all of the studies show that helmets reduce the severity of head injuries, oftentimes can prevent head injuries in lower-speed collisions. Because of this, that Ontario passed a law back in 1995 requiring children, so people under the age of 18, to wear a helmet. And parents can be charged if they knowingly allow their children under the age of 16 to ride without a helmet on the roadway. So, there's a heavy onus on the parents and on the kids to take this safety precaution. And despite this, we see a lot of kids injured in cycling collisions not wearing helmets. For example, in 2012, there were 51 cyclists between the ages of 5 and 14 injured in collisions in the Toronto area. Only 13 of those were wearing helmets. And also, the helmets aren't mandatory for mom and dad, but they should be wearing them as well.
That's for sure. Now, beyond helmet usage, what can cyclists, particularly those riding the roads up here in cottage country, do to ensure that they are as safe as possible?
Well, look, people don't appreciate this, but under Ontario's Highway Traffic Act, a bicycle is considered a vehicle on the roadway just like a car. So it's important that cyclists know and obey all of the traffic laws. I often cycle up in the Honey Harbor area, so I know that cottage country roads can be dangerous. Oftentimes there's little or no shoulder. There's reduced visibility because of all the twists and turns and trees and rocks and what have you. So cyclists should try to ride as close to the right edge of the road as possible, and they should do everything that they can to ensure that they're visible to motorists. I mean, people just simply don't see cyclists. We know that because I interview people that have caused these collisions, and oftentimes they say, look, I just didn't see the person. So you can wear flashing lights on your bicycle or on your helmet, both front and back. The reflectors are helpful, reflective clothing and bright-colored clothing, anything to make you more conspicuous so you give drivers every opportunity to see you.
And what rights do cyclists injured in a collision with an automobile have?
Well, if a cyclist is injured or killed in a collision, the victim or their family members have a right to sue the at-fault motorist. The amount of compensation that a person receives will depend in part on the severity of the injuries, but also in part on what precautions were taken and the allocation of fault as between the cyclist and the motorist. It's called contributory negligence. So, for example, if a cyclist was not wearing a helmet and didn't have reflectors on the bike or wasn't wearing the reflective clothing, or they weren't following the rules of the road, they will likely face an argument from the defense lawyer that they contributed. They were contributorily negligent. They were partly to blame for the happening of the collision and partly responsible for their own injuries. And that will reduce the compensation that they're entitled to.
Now, if somebody has been injured in a cycling-related accident, what should they do?
Well, it's extremely important that someone who suffers serious injuries as a result of a cycling accident gets qualified legal counsel immediately. Injury lawyers, like the lawyers from the Personal Injury Alliance, who have a lot of experience handling these types of cases, will help to ensure that people are getting the best possible care and representation.
So if somebody wants more information, if they're somewhere where they can get that information?
You bet. Yeah, they can go to the Personal Injury Alliance website. It's pialaw.ca.
All right, we've been talking with Dale Orlando. Thank you very much for the information.
Well, I appreciate your time this morning, Ken.